People that wouldn't do anything to begin with, turns around on the tail end, covering it all up again. They won't do the friggin' job because the Bush crime syndicate controls, and my ex-in-laws were one of the Illuminati bankers like Daddy Bush is. And they're screwing America, and have screwed the whole planet.
They have. They don't call it the New World Order for nothing. They want to enslave everybody. They've refined the art of slavery to the point the slaves don't know they're slaves. They just owe their taxes. Now let me ask you, we're starting a new segment here. My guest is Stu Webb. In the first half, we talked about his relationship with Ted Gunderson and the whole Patriot movement. Right now, I'm fairly disgusted, Stu, with the Patriot movement. You know what I've been trying. I've been trying to put out the truth. I've been providing a newspaper, a radio show for people like you for almost 20 years. And then suddenly I get attacked, not only by the ADL and the Southern Poverty Law and, you know, and the whole Homeland Security meeting, because I filmed the first Homeland Security meeting, put it out on a film called True Face of FEMA. I've been attacked. To me, the banksters are the enemies. The middlemen's out there, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, you know, the Geithners, the Citicorps, those are the real enemy of the people. And it's not just Americans, it's the whole world, is it not?
Very true. There's 100 Illuminati bankers, and they are the enemy. They have caused this problem. And really in America, it's Daddy Bush and Henry Kissinger and David Rockefeller and Carl Linder, and now, because Millman's reportedly died in 2004, what I see in the tracks and everything is Larry Mizell took over for him, and all the $16 trillion that Millman had when he died, except for $50 billion he left to his kids and an estate and his grandkids. The other $16 trillion that he had all transferred over illegally to Larry Mizell, who's now in control of that money. And they are destroying America. They are partners to, and bottom line is, there's a guy named George Herbert Walker Bush, we call him Daddy Bush, in America. He is the godfather, should we say, the one that's controlling everybody, Barack Obama, Romney, everybody. He was the major criminal. He was the problem that we have in America. And if he could be brought to justice, believe me, I could have him hung after convicted in a court of law for treason and sedition and everything else. And I have documents of him commit treason and sedition, selling fighter jet, Apache helicopters, M1 tanks to Iran, Iraq, Libya, selling Gulf War syndrome, biological chemical agents known as Gulf War syndrome, a.k.a. Iraq a.k.a. B&L Bank. I have the documents, the evidence to prove, and what's left of us whistleblowers out here that haven't been killed, and 40 have been killed that I've been aware of, and have been associated with over the years. I'm just one of the lucky ones after 29 years still alive. Like, I had a meeting with one, everybody knows him, remembers him of the past, Terry Reid. The Clinton Bush and the CIA. I had a meeting with him a year ago, and he says, Stu, he says, we're only one of three still alive. Me, you, and Al Martin. He says everybody else is dead. I said, yeah, you're right, Terry.
There's a few more than that, and let me bring this up. In my book, Mystery Babylon, which is basically almost an autobiography of my 25 years in the Patriot movement, and starting 25 years ago when I was publishing a motorcycle magazine, I got a hold of a document that basically involved Terry Reid. But it was the statement of Colonel Edward P. Catolo on Operation Watchtower, which he commanded under George Bush as CIA director.
I released that document through Bill McCoy and released that in 1994, Clayton, in case you didn't know. I
released it in my motorcycle magazine probably 5 years before that, because I started the Free American and the radio show, and I had Bill Tyree, who
I released that document in 1991, actually, and in 1993 I made a video, and on that video is that document, and it's up on my YouTube channel, and it was then put out several places, and the first to actually print it was, I believe in book form, was Rodney Stitch, but I was the one that actually released that document. So The video shows it in the document dating back to 1993. I don't know, whether I gave it to you later on or whether you
No, I got it. I got it at Sturgis while I was still publishing the motorcycle magazine in Miami. A Vietnam vet gave me this document. And Stu, I was so paranoid when I read it because, like Terry Reed said, everybody involved in this thing was dead, or like William Tyree, they were in prison, in Walpole prison, doing life for the murder of his wife, who Catolo said who killed him,
Yeah, and there's follow-up on my website. Besides the Catola affidavit under table of contents, in that section there's also affidavits of Catola's assistant, another colonel, that's daughter brought it to court over the fact of the activity. But that was just one of Iran-Contra activity.
That's right, but that resulted...
U.S. satellite, that was a fight. The Anir, who wrote that document, that was the short version. I have the long version, which is 101 pages. I've never published. And it's like, on my website, there's only 0.5% of what I know or have. I've released a lot of documents. I've put up bank accounts, over $1 trillion in one document of bank accounts that can be found on breaking news. At the top it says additional breaking news. It's full of documents in there and showing where they've tried to kill me even recently in the past year 3 times, burned a customer's house down to shut me up and silence me. But in there's a document, Bush bank accounts, and there was $1 trillion worth of bank accounts showing $100 billion wire transfers at a time from Bush narcotics accounts into Melman accounts in Denver, Colorado, etc. My ex-in-laws, those kind of things. So I put out a lot of things. But that document, the Catola, was 101 pages. I have the original one. It was written by a Anir, who was National Security at the time, and he actually testified in the Noriega trial as well on behalf of Noriega, saying that, Bush had illegally attacked Panama, etc. But Anir wrote that. And that document gets into a lot of people that are still alive, and a lot of people that are very dangerous. Is the reason I never published the whole damn thing, because I was warned by Bill McCoy, that was Defense Intelligence, ex-Inspector General of the Pentagon, Assistant Inspector General, dating back in the 70s, told me not to release it. He said, do the short version. He's the one that actually created the short version of it with an ear to ensure that nobody got killed over the thing. But they wanted my ass really bad in 1994 when I was passing that all around the Patriot community.
Well, that was, they tried to kill me in 2004. Are you aware of that?
I did not know that, but I don't doubt that, Clayton.
On March 2004, I ran building number 7 on the cover of the magazine. I referred to it on the air as an exaggerated case of Jewish lightning. And in April, the story broke that George Bush was allowing the NSA to tap all of our cell phones, all of our telephones. NSA didn't tap anybody's phones. That was subbed out to Amdocs and Converse, 2 Israeli companies. On May 20th, I called home and asked my son on my AT&T phone that I'd had for 5 or 6 years, where do you need me to go next, son? Where are you, Dad? Northside of Phoenix, Shaker's Skin Tattoo Parlor. I'll go down 24th Street to McDowell, turn left, go to the wheel shop. It's right there. Okay, son. See you later. 2 blocks where I got to McDowell, I was T-boned. I was hit. I was put in a hospital. I was hit hard enough to roll a Road King motorcycle over me 3 times. I was the only motorcycle on the road. They rushed me to the hospital and kept me unconscious, drugged, for 3 months for 3 broken ribs. Long enough for my show to go down.
They rode me a year ago, Clayton, in October. 1 year ago this past October, they rode me on the freeway, an FBI stooge, with a Somalian hit team member in her car with 5 passports and 5 identities, we found out. Hit me in the left side, bounced off of a wall intentionally, the concrete barrier wall, came up beside me and started scraping. Now I'm seeing a separation of the cars. I couldn't stop in time. All of a sudden I see them and they bounce right into my ass end. My van jackknifed right in the middle of the center lane, jackknifed me, and all I could see was I was going for the barrier, and then I was going for the roll, and I saw the concrete barrier coming at my head in the windshield, and I got rolled 3 times on there. If it hadn't been for the fact that I'm a contractor, and I put a wall behind the seats, a 2x4 wall to keep people out of my toolbox, quote unquote, and plywood over the windows, I would have been dead, because the thing smashed down and my head smashed through a hole. There was a speaker behind the seat. It smashed into there, broke my neck in 5 places, broke all the bones off the back of my vertebrae that hold all the ligaments and so forth. I was nearly paralyzed. And if it hadn't been for a chiropractor putting me back together and another doctor over a period of time, I wouldn't be around. But I, 1 year later after that, this past October, they decided that I'm back in business and I'm making money and I'm keeping the noise up and I'm trying to trying to make a living, and I got a house to remodel and I'm in the middle of it. I'm about halfway through it. Well, I was done with all the interior pretty much and finishing up a little bit on the inside, and the clowns that were involved in the rollover are back again. I've been being staked and tailed, and I've been taking pictures, and just like the first accident. And by the way, the first one was the Grandview, Missouri Police Department covered up, and while I'm laying in intensive care, knocked out for 2 days. They made a report. They took it out of the hands of the cops on the street, and they had another party that was involved without getting into the details, but they claimed to have been a witness that I was at fault. And you can see the police report. It's on additional breaking news right off the breaking news page. It shows the pictures in there and the links. But they're getting ready to be sued. The FBI is getting ready to be sued over it, because it goes back to the FBI of Houston, Texas, that was involved in running the operations, a nutcase fraud that they got down there that's running these Somalian hit teams. And I can prove it. I can also prove the cops lied. I have my phone records to show that I kept calling them to make my report. They wouldn't ever take a report from me. And the most bizarre thing. And my insurance ended up paying out on this. Well, a year later, I got a house burned down to the ground where they torched it, the customer's house. And the customer, it turns out to be, she thought there was insurance on it. She had just inherited it. They had insurance papers that showed they did, but they didn't have. And they won't pay on the house. So there's $160,000 lost to my customers. Then 8 days later, they crashed me in the ass into 20 miles an hour and gave me a concussion, whiplash, and a nice broken up back again, or not broken, but all knocked out of place. And then 8 days after that, an Iran-Contra drug smuggler from Mena, Arkansas, named Jay Stevens at Stevens Truck Driving School, that had been all over the news in Kansas City, after an IRS agent had approached me that was doing an investigation from where I turned in Silverado and all of them, my ex-in-laws, back in 1990, and turned in all these entities, 1,000 entities, to the IRS, and they initiated a big investigation against them. The Bush, during President George Herbert Walker Bush's regime, closed the investigation down, started a war in Iraq, probably because Neil was in the center of it, and the savings alone. That investigation led to the termination of that IRS agent, because she was investigating the spin-off accounts of Jay's Truck Driving School, why he had millions of dollars in there. Well, he was drug smuggling, etc. And here he is, 20-some-odd years later, from 1990 until 2011 in October, he rams me in the side, the left side, passes me on the freeway, and bangs into me twice before his truck went into the center lane, or the center between the freeway. And he bangs me, trying to knock me off, and that did more whiplash and another concussion on top of a concussion. So, and those two, what's funny is both of them were ticketed, the last two, because I wasn't knocked out laying in an emergency room where I couldn't, talk to the cops and nail them right on the spot. They couldn't cover it up. And they actually ticketed both of them, and the whole 9 yards. And both of those insurance companies are fighting me today on the value of my van that's totaled, the current one. And
all right, hold on a second here. Let me see.
Sounds like we've been cut off or something.
No, hold on a minute. Let me find out what is doing that here. Let me see here. Which one we got? What have I got here? Somewhere here I've got something here that ain't working properly. Okay. All right.
Are we we back?
Yes, sir. We're back. I had one
So the
station
point
that was
is,
in.
somebody owes me $3,000 for my van. They don't want a Century insurance, Viking insurance, and they don't want to pay it. And it's this drug dealer, Irene Country drug dealer named Jay Stevens, still hauling drugs, by the way. Mena, Arkansas is still alive, still hauling drugs out of Mena and out of St. Joe. He's running them from Springfield, Missouri to St. Joe and up to Chicago and different parts. Jay's truck driving school. Here's a truck driving school. And here was this IRS agent 20 years ago, or back in 1990, contacted me, 91, and she's finding these zero quad accounts of Silverado full of millions of dollars from Jay's truck driving. And she got fired, so she decided to take it to local media after talking to me, because it was because of my investigation that I initiated by turning them over to the IRS. And so on TV5 in Kansas City, they ran like a 3-day special about Jay's truck driving school being involved in hauling drugs. And here he is trying to murder me on a friggin' freeway in October of last year.
Well, that's what happens in the whole drug business. Now, let me stop you for just a second here, because I want to switch over. You know, I just told you, just your story is typical here. You know, playing you a patriot against Ted Gunderson, who was supposedly a patriot. The Tea Parties have attacked Ron Paul, the only guy up there, and I don't say that he's ideal, but he's the only one up there that's telling you the truth. The only one out of all of your senators and all of your congressmen that are actually speaking up for the Constitution they took an oath to. So we've got a whole government full of traitors, and the FBI and the CIA. CIA brings the drugs here. The FBI bust people. You know, I've been telling people for 50 years, if a man with a badge can walk up and say, "What do you got in your pocket there, son?" You live in a police state. If he can take you to jail for what you've got in your pocket when you're not inebriated, when you're not doing nothing, you are in a police state. Now, we've got more Americans in prison right now than any communist country in the world, including Red China, with more people than we got here. We're a bigger population, right? And folks, let me just, we just talked Barry Seal. I knew Barry Seal. He was running the drugs into Mena, Arkansas for Bill Clinton. They killed him in Baton Rouge. All of this is in my book. I was threatened, and they tried to kill me before the book. Now the books came out, and they're still trying to threaten me. They're trying to kill you. Where is our support in the Patriot movement? I am frankly sick to death of the whole Patriot movement. The Ron Paul was put down by the Tea Parties, and they're all being manipulated. I mean, both the Republican and Democratic parties are being manipulated behind the scene by the bankers.
Well, here's what the problem is. The bankers are correct. It's the 100 Illuminati bankers that only controlled 20% of the economy of the U.S. in 1981 have now hijacked this country, stolen everything, and now, as Jennifer Granholm, the former governor that is on current TV, said 3 weeks ago on her program, and I don't watch it, but I was flipping channels and saw it, she actually came out and said what I've been saying for the past year, that they're in control of 90-95% of the economy, and she was sitting there reading from General Accounting Office reports that 400 men now in the United States make more money than 1/2 of the entire population of the United States, that they make more money than the bottom totem pole of 150 million people. Meaning now the 300 million, 150 million do not make what those in the bottom level, do not make what those 400 men make. And she also said those 400 men are now in control of 95% of the entire economy of the U.S. Those are the bankers and their fronts. Those are the ones that, you know, are the buffers for the Millmans, the Bushes, for the Rockefellers, for the Rothschilds, for the Queen of England, and so on and so forth, the international bankers, the 100 Illuminati bankers. Now, what the problem is they have put in greased every congressman and senator. They've got them in there. They've been doing it. I mean, I got you know, Millman and that whole crowd. in Time magazine when the media was free prior to 1992, and they took it completely over by then. But I had gotten Time magazine, and Jonathan Beatty, that wrote the Outlaw book about BCCI, I had gotten him to write stories about MDC and broke it out in the press after the Denver Post refused to put it out and covered it up. Then they come in the next day claiming they got the story scoop, and they didn't. They had it, but they didn't run with it. And about their illegal political campaign money laundering, because of the, that was one of the 4 congressional investigations I caused, which they called it the Keating Five. The other was HUD in Denver, how they stole 500,000 apartment units, and an independent prosecutor, Arlen Adams, was appointed, and that gave me the federal whistleblower title in 1989. And, of course, I was behind the scenes doing it to them, exposed the Denver airport, the secret underground facility, which there's a videotape up on YouTube/Stu Webb 1. And, of course, it was the Keating Five, the HUD, the Silverado, and the illegal politicals, which was the MDC 200, Silverado, HUD, and what was the 4th thing? But there were 4 congressional investigations that were back to back that I helped initiate when you could get something done. What had happened was, after Daddy Bush came in office, they totally hijacked. It was during the Ronald Reagan administration. They hijacked and they changed all the Justice Department in '88. Took out the federal racketeering offices. They took out all the checks and balances out of government, and then they took the checks and balances out, which was called the so-called free press journalism in America. And they financed, Millman financed Rupert Murdoch with all the drug money. And Rupert Murdoch, of course, ends up buying up every damn newspaper and television all across this nation, except for, I think, one network he doesn't own. And if you remember the corporate takeover of all the studios in California back in the early 2002 time frame, I think it was, that was Millman using the stooge that took over Disney.
All right, let me stop you for just a second. We need to clarify something here. Now,
yeah.
My website, I've been doing this for 25 years. I've never been sued for slander or libel. I try to get my facts accurate. And I talk about the Jewish issue. Alex Jones won't talk about it. Lynn Horowitz won't talk about it. People don't want to talk about it. And I mean, come on, we've got thousands of years of history with these Pharisees interfering with us, controlling religions. They control religions. They control the Catholic religion. They may have a splinter group for the Presbyterians, but the religions I'm basically seen as control mechanisms before the computer, before government. And now they've got us in the situation where they made anything illegal that's good for us, basically, like hemp and good products like that. And they're feeding us, they're drugging Americans down the same way they did in China, the same way with the opium, except they're using pharmaceuticals, got a better markup than opium, and we control the opium too. Our government is being run by bankster financed drug dealers, and they're destroying the American population mentally, physically, and basically poisoning us. Is that a fair statement here? And if that is, why if they keep trying to silence people like you and I, what do we do? I've been trying to restart a business. I've got no help from the Patriot movement, and I'm so disgusted with it that I'm almost ready. And I tell people, my fiction books, my science fiction books, are easier, are closer to reality, are easier to more believable than the non-fiction.
Well, let me answer it. There's several questions there. First of all, yes, I did a show, and it'll be up on my internet site, StuWebb.com, a 3-part series. Part of them are up there now. I just haven't had time to load them last night, this morning. But it gets into Alex Jones and how he's really who he works for, etc. He's not who he claims to be. The Glenn Becks of the world aren't who they claim to be. The stooges, such as, they're all working for Gov. They're quasi-Gov, should we say, media. Just like Bill O'Reilly's and all this other. It's bogus stuff. It's to keep everybody entertained. The boogeyman's going to get you. It's all police state. You can't do anything about it. Have you ever heard these people say there's a solution? It's called put them in handcuffs. We have the legal right under the Bill of Rights, Constitution, the Declaration of Independence to put them in handcuffs and bring them to trial. But do people advocate that? No. It's always a boogeyman's going to come get you, buy my food and storage and buy guns and get prepared. And prepared for what? For them to come bust your door down and kill you? Now, the problem is everybody needs to get on the same page, in my opinion. And the same page is to do massive recalls of every congressman and senator across the U.S., remove them because if they sign the anti-NDAA law, or the NDAA law, which says they can come pick you up, hold you, and torture you without trial and all this other and kill you, well, they committed treason and sedition. Their oath of office, they violated it, reason for recall. If they signed the Patriot Act, which is against the Constitution, they violated their oath of office, uphold and support the Constitution, of which you took an oath. I took an oath when I was in the military to do so. I still feel obligated and always will. Now, the problem is we have to remove these people. There is a group on Facebook, Facebook.com/anti-NDAA. I push it because they're trying to get organized across the nation. They're beginning to. They're trying to get people involved and get these recall petitions because the voting booths are controlled through electronics, through satellites, and we've proven that in the 2004 elections the first time because I was involved with people in Interpol that brought their satellites in to ensure that we had a fair election, and they shot out 2 of the buses that were Bush's buses, satellites tied to Westar that were hitting the voting machines and changing the numbers. Since that time, they've been running around with NSA goons, putting in chips in the voting machines, and they already know who's going to be when and where. Now, what I hear is they've hired murder for hire. Obama has, at Daddy Bush's request, signed executive order, and they got 20 agents running out of E-Systems of Dallas, federal agents, old killers of the past, CIA types, done assassins worldwide, and they're running hit teams. And they got 200 hit teams with 200 support groups, total of 420 of them, and some of them that they've been calling up, trying to recruit and sign in executive orders that you're back in service, etc., under, U.S. law and all this. They're saying, pardon the expression, fuck you, Obama, fuck you, Bush, this is America, this is not Nazi Germany, and we will not kill people. Now, those people are already taking heat for saying that to the Obama Nazi regime and the Daddy Bush Nazi regime, and they're already in trouble for doing that. But they've got their own hit teams, Murder Incorporated, Murder for Hire. They think they're going to knock out people like you, me, and a whole canopy of others, including the what's called the Occupy movement, where the leaders of this, they keep getting in their face, they want them off the streets, and it's a problem to them. So they think they're going to do this. Obama has declared himself, and Daddy Bush, I might add, has declared that Obama's going to remain in office. He will be the last president we ever have. He's going to be there forever. Romney's not going to get in. It's going to be Obama. And Obama, because he's such a good stooge for Daddy Bush, he thinks that I guess he thinks in his own mind that he might just be, the Antichrist, that a lot of people in the Christian community believe that we're in these end times. Well, we might just be, with all the planet change and everything else going on and various things, but
Stu, I've got
folks. Now, my point is, what we really need to do is get on a page together, start doing immediate arrest of every one of these. Get the dirt on every one of them. Every one of these congressmen and senators have trusts that are in their children's names and their wives' names. Their financial statements show a lot of these trusts and stuff. Where did they get that money? That was the bribes and payoffs from a guy named Norman Brownstein in Denver, Colorado, who was the attorney on MDC Holdings, at one time a director, that owned Silverado. And Brownstein is the payoff master and the biggest lobbyist in Washington who has screwed